All right, my friends, the video you're about to see, I have tried not to post this thing. My mind is terrified to post it. My perfectionist is trying to convince me to reshoot it. I was in the redwood forest, the ancient redwoods. I was talking quietly. The lighting was horrible. And really, I was sharing things in this video that were extremely honest and extremely vulnerable. But my higher self has taken over, and I'm actually sharing this video with you because I know it's going to help someone. What I'm sharing with you in this video are the 5 biggest challenges I have faced in growing my business as an empath entrepreneur. And I'm sharing this video to give you rocket fuel to surpass the fears and realize you are going to bump up against hard things in your ambitions, in your creative pursuits, in your business as a coach, a healer, as an empath. And I want to be living proof of what happens when you keep going. You get through those obstacles and you're able to sidestep some of the things that I went through and become the person that you are born to be. So without further ado, in service to all of us empaths thriving in our lives and businesses, I suggest you grab a cup of tea, kick up your feet, and we're gonna get very real and we're gonna go deep. I just got a question from an amazing woman in my membership program. I'm in the honeymoon period of starting my own business. Recently watched a video from Veronica's channel on how hard it can be to have your own business. She said that if she had known how hard it would have been, she would have stayed in her safe old life. This was quite strong, and I feel like I need to know the possible challenges I might be facing soon. Let's get started. The 5 biggest challenges I have faced in my business and the lessons I learned from having to move through those exquisitely painful challenges so that you don't have to go through those challenges. You can just take the gold that I'm giving you and run with it. So we're going to start with the hardest one first, the one that I carried a lot of shame around for a long time. And I'm going to start with it first because it's so important to be shameless. If you need approval from other people, if you are ashamed of anything in your life, it will hold you back financially, it will hold you back professionally, it will hold you back in every area of your life. I have finally come to terms with what I'm about to share with you, but I will tell you that when I went through this, I was so ashamed. I felt so worthless. Basically, when I first started my business, I filed bankruptcy early on. This is like 11 or 12 years ago, because I didn't have a dollar to my name. And not only did I not have a dollar to my name, I also had $20,000 or $30,000 in debt. I was coming out of a life of leaving my past relationship, going through deep depression. I had left my career. I had left the corporate world. I had left everything stable and secure, and I was starting my life over. And I didn't know, as I looked at the mountain I had to climb, I didn't see how I was ever going to get past survival. I was, in the midst of working 3 jobs and starting my business. I decided, after doing some research, to file bankruptcy, even though that amount of money now is nothing to me. That's like a blink. It's so easy to make $20,000, $30,000 in an hour and just free myself from something like that. But back then, I didn't believe in myself. I had 0 self-worth. I knew that I wanted to share something valuable, and I was sharing something valuable, but I didn't think I was worth charging very much. Yes, I was charging, but I was charging things like $85 for private sessions at the time, and I did like a half-off thing for a while. I had no idea who I was at the time and how much value I had to give. And I was very, very good at giving and very, very bad at receiving. There were some really big lessons I got from this. Lessons I wouldn't trade for anything. I would definitely do it all over again because of the lessons I received, okay? The first lesson I received was how to manifest and manage money, how to manifest and manage money, because at the time I didn't know how to manifest money. And manifesting money is not like, please, please bring money, drop it into my lap. That is not manifestation. That is insanity. Manifestation is making offers, putting your work out there, letting people know how they can pay you to work with you, giving value, massive value, and letting people know how they can buy that value. I didn't value myself, and so I was so much in a people-pleasing energy that all I did was give all this free content that people loved. But the idea of charging for it every time I did, it was terrifying, and I always undercut myself. I always undervalued myself back then. So of course I couldn't survive. So without any purchasing power, which is what happens when you file bankruptcy, or what I used to call back then, I was filing prosperity. I had a very clear intention of mastering money, of learning how to make money and save it and invest it and grow it, to be a steward of money, to have prosperity. That was my intention in doing it. I knew 100% that that was the one time in my life that I was ever going to be giving myself that opportunity and to use it. And so what I learned without having any purchasing power at all was how to live off of cash. I cold turkey, no more credit cards. I stopped using my future energy to have an instant gratification. And that was one of the best lessons I ever received, because in all of those years, I couldn't just get a credit card and buy whatever I wanted. I couldn't pay for parking at yoga class or something like that. I didn't go to yoga. I'd go to the park and I would do some stretching, or I would go for a run, or whatever was free. I learned how to manifest money by making offers, letting people know how to work with me. And I also learned how to manage money. The thing I would say to you, if you're just starting your business, is instead of going through everything I had to go through, I would really get good at managing your energy so that you have confidence. Like, I wish I had me as a coach back then, because I would have been able to help myself own and claim my worth and find my inner resources to really claim that what I was giving was worthy and valuable. And I would also really coach myself into making offers repeatedly and doing the inner work. So if you're afraid of people judging you or not liking you, which they will and which they won't, it's so important to feel that and to work with that, which is what some of my other videos are all about. I have a whole membership around clearing your energetic blocks so you're confidently making offers and giving your work in the world. The real issue at the bottom of the bankruptcy was people pleasing, because people who are people pleasy are usually financially broke because they're so concerned with being liked that they don't stand in their authority and they don't stand in their powerful message. They don't put themselves in the position of being disliked. So what happens? They just have a very tepid message, a very bland message. It's like, oh, self-love, yay. But there's no oof, there's no story, there's no power, there's no gravitas, there's no strong opinion in there that is very clear so that people will love them and people will hate them usually. When you have a solid message, you're going to piss people off and you're also going to help a lot of people. At the time, I was so codependent. I needed my audience to love me. I needed my audience to approve of me. The number one thing I would tell my younger self when I was in this position is I would say, sweetheart, own your worth and make offers. Let people know every day how they can buy from you, how they can grow with you, how they can work with you. Making one offer once and then crawling into a hole and hoping people buy, which was my strategy back then, by the way, is not going to work. The second biggest challenge I have faced as an empath entrepreneur is pretty severe bullying. That's right. Bullying like you cannot believe. Before I get into this one, I just want to say that for the most part, like 95% of the people who I'd even say 98% of the people I've come into contact with through my business have been the best people you have ever met. When I was just starting my business, I didn't have any financial resources, as you know, from number one of my biggest challenge. And so when a client would pay me to work with me, I had a no refund policy. They could exchange it for another service. They could transfer it to give it to another person as a gift. But once they bought something, that was that. So I had a client at the time who was getting very, very good results from our work together. And his pattern was to back out whenever he would see some changes happening. He'd get scared. And so he told me this pattern. Wow, look how cool. So he told me about this pattern and said, I know you only do single sessions or packages of 4, because that's what I did at this time. I don't recommend that. That's another reason my business was not doing well in the beginning. Look at this. We are going to sit inside this ancient tree to talk about bullying. All right, beautiful tree. It's weird to talk about all this stuff because it's been so long, and I'm just feeling a lot of compassion for the girl who went through all this. That's why I'm making this video for you, so you're equipped, so you don't have to go through all this. Okay, so this particular client was getting amazing results, and he asked if he could buy 10 sessions at once so that he was certain that he would continue the work for at least 10 sessions, because he was seeing such a transformation and he wanted to stay the course. He didn't want his old pattern of running away from what was helping him grow. So I said, of course. And I was overjoyed because it was so great working with him. He was like just so receptive, and he was really going deep, having a lot of amazing results. Like he was building his confidence and he was feeling really empowered. And for me at the time, whatever money came into my business went right into expenses to just survive in my business. I didn't have any reserves. So that's why I had a no refund policy. And long story short, about 3 sessions in, he decides he wants to pull out and get his money back. Even though he knew it was non-refundable, his old pattern was coming up. And I let him know, like, I'm so sorry, but there is no refund. So let's just keep doing the work together. Or if you need to pause, we can start again. I'm happy to give you like a year of time in order to continue when you're ready. And he got really angry, like really livid, actually. I said to Jason, like, I don't know what to do. I don't even have the money to give him back. Even if I were to break policy and like give him his money back, I didn't even have it because I had just filed bankruptcy. Okay, this is, I know, very honest, but we got to talk about these things because most people aren't. And when you're just starting your business, you are susceptible if you're not prepared for things like this. So you're getting value and you're excited that I'm sharing so bluntly with you and so transparently. Give this video a thumbs up because I really hope this video helps as many big-hearted souls as possible to thrive in their businesses. I told Jason, my partner, about it, and he was like, you don't need to give him any reason. It is company policy. Just hold your boundary. It's none of his business. He made an agreement. He signed. He knew exactly what he was getting into, that it was non-refundable. And he signed a disclaimer and he signed all the paperwork. So, you know, oh, there's a little guy right there. That's how I felt back then, like that little chipmunk. I was like, what am I doing? Trying to be an entrepreneur when I don't know what I'm doing. So anyway, this is important. I internally had a sense that I needed to be honest with this client. But Jason, I took his guidance, and although his guidance is usually very spot on, inside I had a sense that it was not the right guidance, that I needed to actually be honest with this client and tell him, I'm a small business. I don't even have the capacity to refund you. That's why I have a no refund policy. I didn't do any of that. And instead, what ended up happening was this man got together with like 3 or 4 people, and they just started bullying me on every single video. They started a YouTube channel with my last name, and it was like just the meanest, most horrible thing. and they would slam me on videos. So I had to be up at night. I had to be deleting comments that were so incredibly mean. Now, the beautiful thing about my audience is that a lot of my audience would just like delete comments and like flag them because they were just so incredibly mean. I was in such a panic at the time. And when I look back in hindsight, there was a massive lesson, because what I ended up doing after a while, because it was intolerable, like weeks of this went by. Every day they would slam me. They would do like 20, 30, 40 horrible comments. And YouTube at the time, this is like 12 years ago, didn't have the filters that it has now to protect creators. So I was just feeling so wrecked. I mean, emotionally, I just was trying to do my best, survive in my business. I had every pure intention. The only thing that I missed, and this is the mistake I made, was that I wasn't honest. So what I ended up doing was I wrote him an email and I said, I just want you to know that right now I'm in a really hard time. I'm going through bankruptcy. I am a tiny business trying to survive. I just love the work I do, but it's not profitable yet. And, what you're doing is really harming me. He wrote back and he was shocked. In his mind, he had portrayed me as this financially rich, perfect, prosperous business owner. And he saw me as evil. He saw me as so incredibly selfish and self-serving, and I was just out for the money, which couldn't be further from the truth. And long story short, he took all the comments down. He stopped the bullying. He had all his friends stop. And what I learned from this was to be humble. I didn't want to be seen as broken. I didn't want to be seen as a mess or a failure. And I felt really vulnerable if I were to share that with him, because I was afraid he would just spread it all over and then people would see me differently. And I was not a secure person at the start of my business. My business helped me become very confident and very secure. That's why I'm a huge proponent of starting your business and having the right coach who helps you use every struggle, every challenge to become the most empowered you could possibly be. And that's what the journey of especially empath entrepreneurship is, of being a coach and helping people. Your whole life will change. You just have to have the right support. And we'll get into that later in the video. The big lessons were to be humble, like not to put on some show of like, oh, I've got it all together, but just be real. I was a small business owner and I didn't have the capacity to refund money. That's why I had a no refund policy. And also to be humble and to be honest with him. The other big lesson was to trust myself. Your business is going to teach you to trust yourself, because although Jason is incredibly wise, his guidance for me in that moment, I knew internally was not the right guidance in this scenario, that I actually needed to be honest with this guy. And had I been honest with him, I probably would have avoided all that bullying. In hindsight, it also showed me that I could get through something really hard and keep going. It taught me how powerful I am. All right, number 3, the third biggest challenge I have faced as a business owner, as an empath entrepreneur. And my God, I'm like hesitant to even go here because I feel like you guys are going to be like, I'm never starting my business. The whole point of this video is to share the worst possible things that can happen and let you know that there are lessons that are trying to unfold that are the real purpose of the challenge. Challenges are not here to take us down. They're here to help us grow. My God. Oh, beautiful. I actually did a video on this many, many years ago. Holy wow. All right, I'm letting my hair down for this one. Okay. We're going to keep going. So the third biggest challenge I faced in my business, and this happened very early on in my business when I first started making videos, is dealing with a stalker, an actual stalker. Oh my God. Okay, so I was living actually here in Mendocino, California at the time, and very long story short, somebody became obsessed with me and my videos and would write me these very, very long emails that didn't make any logical sense. At the time, I was so scared because someone in my family who had mental illness, so I have like a red flag that goes up around that, and like this lack of safety thing, can really get triggered. So that red flag went up, and what I would do is like read every detail of the email because it was very cryptic and almost threatening, but also very kind and very mixed up and mental. And so I would obsess over these emails. What I was doing at the time was actually responding with kindness, hoping that that would sort of deflect the energy that was coming my way. Big mistake. We'll get into what I learned from it in a moment. Long story short, I didn't have very good boundaries at the time. And so online, I was sharing about the fact that I was a yoga teacher and I was living in a very small town. So it was very easy to figure out where I was teaching yoga. And long story short, one day I walk into the studio to teach, and there is a very cryptic card with some weird writing on it. And apparently this person from wherever they lived in this country drove all the way to the middle of nowhere to my little tiny yoga studio to find me. As you can imagine, I pretty much peed in my pants. Like, I was living alone in the redwood forest, and there was somebody who had located my physical location and was clearly stalking me. I won't get into all the details. It was very scary. But what I realized, something that was incredible, was that as soon as I put up energetic boundaries, meaning I had a very solid boundary where I no longer read the emails. I was cutting cords. I was not even letting my mind go anywhere near that person. They literally didn't exist anymore. They were non-existent. I cut all communication. I no longer opened the emails. When they came in, I deleted them. And after a while of just delete, zero charge, zero energy. Nobody knew where I physically lived because I was always very, very good about that. But I didn't work at that studio much longer, and I just put up super strong boundaries. Most importantly, energetic boundaries. So psychically, I wasn't attaching to this person and I wasn't letting them in my world. And there was no game being played. So then that just fizzled out. It just died. The energy just died. And also, I stopped talking about where I lived in my videos. I learned, and this is a really big lesson. Even now, when I post a video, you're going to see this video after I've left Mendocino. I don't even let people know where I live. I have extremely strong boundaries ever since that situation, and some might think it's a little strange, the level to which I have boundaries, but there are some unstable people out there, and it's so important to be really clean with your boundaries as a business owner and as a voice, as someone being visible out there. You just set up really strong, healthy boundaries. In hindsight, I am so grateful that this happened because it taught me about safety. It taught me about boundaries. It taught me about the power we all have. Like the fact that as soon as I cut off energetic communication, meaning that person didn't exist to me, literally it was like zoom. An iron wall just went. So even if an email came in, it was just delete. There was no investment of energy. I didn't put any of my energy into it. And what blew my mind is as soon as I took my attention completely off of the situation, it dissolved. You and me, we have so much power. If you feed negativity, if you feed worry, if you feed fear, it gets bigger and it becomes a cyclone almost that you can get sucked into. But conversely, if you feed presence, if you breathe, if you feed love, if you have healthy boundaries, if you take care of yourself, if you do what you need to do to flourish, a whole new world opens up. The fourth biggest challenge I have faced in my business as an empath entrepreneur is struggling in isolation. Oh my God, so many years of cutting everyone out of my life in order to make money in my business. because I was super passionate about my business and still am, I was willing to just cut out any and all distractions and work endlessly in order to make my business work. The challenge is, I didn't realize this, but subconsciously, I believed that if I did everything myself, if I struggled alone, that made me powerful. That was like a noble act. But if I got help, if I hired a coach, if I reached out for help, that was weak. That's what I believed at the time. And my results in my business very clearly reflected that. I didn't realize until I did some deep inner work that when I looked at my female lineage in my family, the women struggled. They suffered. They didn't make a lot of money. And in a way, that was seen as power. It's like, wow, she's super powerful because she struggled really hard. Eventually, when I almost quit my business, I had sent a prayer to the universe and I said, I'm going to quit my business. I am going to get a job at the zoo. I am not kidding. That's literally what I was dreaming of doing, was like working outside in nature with animals. But the pay was very depressing. I was so tired of the feast and famine in my business. It was like I would get all this money for a program and then I would just go into famine. And it was like unpredictable when the next amount of money was going to come in. Some programs would flourish, some would flop. And so I was inconsistent in my financial power because I didn't have support. I didn't have the community that was consistently keeping my vibration high. I didn't have the place to ask questions so that I didn't spend hours endlessly on something that could take a minute to ask a coach or someone who has the experience. I had no strategy in my business or plan. And most importantly, my frequency was in one of struggle, of lack of self-worth, and I was spinning my wheels to nowhere. So when I sent that prayer out to the universe, please help me and show me the way, because right now I'm about to quit my business. If that's not what's meant to be, then please help me. And what's interesting is that's when a friend of mine suggested a particular coach out of nowhere. I didn't share with her I was struggling because at the time I thought I needed to handle it all in isolation. So many of the entrepreneurs I work with, so many coaches, spiritual coaches, soul-centered healers, business owners, they talk about the isolation. And oftentimes they join my membership because they're so tired of this limiting belief that they have to do it all themselves or they have to struggle. And it's so powerful when you see someone break through that block, because things can start to move very quickly. Their visibility breaks through quickly. Their voice becomes clear. Their message, they start making offers. They start making more money in their businesses. It's so beautiful. By the way, if you're looking for support to create your online business, the best way to do that is to create an online course and to create a very clear program or product that you sell, obviously, that you help people with. And if you want that support, on May 8th, Confident Course Creation School starts. You can check it out. I'll put the link below. But basically, if you want to turn your wisdom into a program you can help people with and you can confidently sell, that's what this program is. And I'm with you all 6 weeks. You have my coaching every Saturday. It's super powerful. So you can check it out below. When I shifted from doing it all myself to actually getting support and getting coaching, my self-worth went, I finally said no more. Like, deep down, what was driving the isolation and driving the suffering to do it all myself, that big struggle, was I didn't think I was worth hiring someone for. I didn't even think I was capable of coming up with the money to pay someone. And that was all just a story in my head. So this was a really big one, because once I got the support, my business 4 times in income, and I've had a stable, flourishing business ever since. So this one is a really big one. Number 5, the 5th biggest challenge I have faced in my business, which has been the best lesson so far, has been burnout. This is more recent. So this happened in 2020. I experienced a health diagnosis, an incurable health diagnosis that changed my whole life. You see, what happened was I started to make really good money in my business, impact so many lives. I just felt so amazing. And I couldn't believe that this dream I had had for so long was actually real, and that I was being valued for my work, that I was able to charge what I was charging, that people were getting incredible results, that I have created the life I have created. Like, it's a pinch me reality. It's like, oh my God, this is my life. Like, I made this out of zero. I made this out of nothing. And so what happened was it became addicting. Working became addicting because I love helping people, because I love what I do, because when I'm doing what I do, I often don't feel like I'm working. However, my body felt differently sitting in front of a computer versus moving, being indoors looking at screens rather than being in sunshine or touching the earth or swimming in the ocean. My body was struggling, and I was so inspired and so hooked on my business and on the work I was doing that I didn't listen to my body. I had no balance. Like, I was totally out of balance. I hit a wall. I hit darkness. My health diagnosis was my body's way of crying out, and not just my body, my soul crying out, because I had sort of left my soul. I had sort of left myself to meet certain financial goals. I have a certain trauma in my history, in my family, where someone I love a lot went homeless when I was a little girl. So the idea of being able to buy myself a home and support myself in the way that I have been, it was such a relief. And so I was working too hard. I was working too much. I had no boundaries with my time. If the stalker taught me about boundaries energetically and psychically with other people, this taught me about boundaries with myself. Burnout taught me about how I needed to put up boundaries with my time, with myself, with my mind. So what that looks like now is I realized in talking to one of my coaches that I had no boundaries with my time or my business. I was working 7 days a week, definitely 6 days a week, and sometimes that would bleed into Sundays. I didn't realize until talking to my coach that that's not how it has to be, and that's not healthy. And so I mapped out a vision and a plan where I now work, God, I love it, 4 days a week. I work 4 days a week. I work 4 days a week. Even saying that out loud feels incredible. I communicated with my team. Which is a very small team, by the way. I just have a VA, I have a product developer, and I have a graphic designer, and I have my beloved Jason. We collaborate on many things, and he does some of the enrollment calls. So I communicated with all of my students, all of my clients, and my team, days to communicate with me. I didn't think it was possible at first, but then I realized as soon as I said it and I set that foundation and that communication was in place, no problem, like everything works. And I just had to set up certain systems to make sure that that is all good. I now feel like the happiest, most grateful entrepreneur on the planet, because my business no longer runs me. I run my business. I master my time. I am in control of my schedule, my energy. My body is thriving and happy, and I feel better than I have felt in God knows how long. What I want to share with you, and many, many, many of my students and clients come to me for this reason. They've hit burnout. They still want to do the work. They want to bring their work into the world, but they have no self-care. They don't know how to take care of themselves. They have let their minds take over, and their fears and worries and lack consciousness. So I help them establish businesses that they love, that are in balance with their bodies, so they can swim in the ocean and they can enjoy their lives and do whatever they want to do while having a thriving business. The reason I say this one is my favorite is because it's given me, burnout and the incurable diagnosis gave me my life back. I really feel the things that take us down are not meant to take us down. They're meant to show us something that's out of alignment, or learn some kind of lesson and then implement that lesson so we can flourish. Everything in life, everything in your business, everything in your relationships is literally feedback showing you where you're in alignment and where you're out of alignment. I hope that me sharing these 5 huge challenges that I went through, most of them in the early stages of my business, helps you see that challenges are not here to take you down. There's gold hidden inside of them if you're willing to receive them, and that you can definitely avoid some of the challenges that I went through. Not all of them, but some of them. You might have your own challenges, and then you'll be teaching your clients this someday. Everything you're going through is just gold to share with others. So if you got something from this video, if you loved this kind of honest talk about what it really looks like under the hood of a entrepreneur, especially in the early stages, and then along the way when different rites of passage come about, give this video a thumbs up, ding. And if you're not already subscribed, you can hit the subscribe button. And if you would like help to raise your frequency, like really take it to the next level, make sure you grab my free workshop below on commanding your frequency. It's free. It's my gift to you. And my friends, if you have not joined Confident Course Creation School, this is the last chance. I do this once a year. I don't know if I'll do it live next year, but it is certainly live starting on May 8th. If you want to create your online course with me, I highly recommend joining this amazing program. I will tell you the one thing I had early on in my business is I created an online course, which eventually turned into a book, The Diamond Process, which eventually turned into my coach training program for transformational coaches, spiritual coaches. Best thing I ever did. I did some things right. Maybe I should make a video on the 5 things I did right from the start in my business. If you want that video, let me know in the comments. But one of them was creating my online course. That changed my whole life. I didn't know it at the time, but that changed my whole life because it was a source of income. It was a source of impact, and it became my body of work that just developed and developed and developed over time. So incredibly confidence building to know what your message is and go out there and share it. It's exhilarating. I'll see you in the next video. Mwah.